Life has a way of flipping upside down when you least expect it. One moment, you're 32 married to the love of your life and planning your future together. The next, you're a widow making funeral arrangements because your husband's body was too damaged for an open casket. That was my reality 6 months ago. My husband, Alex, died in a horrific car accident, leaving me drowning in grief. The first few weeks were a haze, funeral planning, phone calls, sleepless nights. If not for my parents stepping in to handle most of the details, I don't know how I would have survived. "Rachel, honey, everything's taken care of," Mom had said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "You just need to focus on yourself right now." In those early days, I was on autopilot, nodding through conversations, accepting condolences, barely tasting the food people forced on me. It wasn't until I found a support group for grieving spouses that I felt like I wasn't completely alone. "Some days are harder than others," I confessed during one meeting, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I wake up and, for just a second, I forget he's gone." Maria, a woman who had lost her husband 2 years earlier, squeezed my hand. "That's normal. The grief comes in waves." Slowly, I started rebuilding. Alex had left me financially secure a house in the suburbs, an apartment downtown, a comfortable savings account. I could have quit my job at the marketing firm, but staying home in an empty house all day? That wasn't an option. Instead, I switched to part-time, just enough to keep my mind occupied. Oddly, the biggest change wasn't just losing Alex, it was my relationship with my parents. Growing up, I had always been an afterthought compared to my younger sister, Emily. They never missed one of her dance recitals or talent shows, but my academic achievements barely got a nod. But after Alex died, something shifted. They invited me over for dinner every week, genuinely asked about my job, and even requested my help financially. When Dad hesitantly brought up that they were struggling and needed $1,500 a month to cover some bills, I agreed without a second thought. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. That illusion shattered the night Emily walked in, 7 months pregnant, stealing the spotlight as effortlessly as she always had. "Emily, sweetheart, sit down," Mom cooed, practically shoving me aside to give her the best seat. "Do you need anything? Another pillow? Some tea?" Just like that, I was invisible again. I watched the way they hovered over her, their attention solely on her growing belly. The familiar ache of being overlooked settled deep in my chest. "So, who's the father?" I asked during dinner, keeping my tone casual. Emily's expression darkened. "That's my business," she snapped, pushing her food around her plate. Mom jumped to her defense immediately. "Rachel, don't pry. Your sister doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Funny, when I was going through fertility treatments, they had no problem demanding updates and offering unsolicited advice. But how are you planning to do this alone?" I pressed, watching her take seconds. "Babies are expensive." Emily waved a hand dismissively. That same smug smirk she always had when she was up to something. "Don't worry about me or my baby. I've got everything figured out." I should have paid attention to that smirk. A week later, I got a call from Emily. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the best of me. "Rachel," she chirped, using the sugary voice she reserved for when she wanted something. "I'm having my baby shower next weekend at Mom and Dad's. You'll come, right?" The last real conversation we'd had was at Alex's funeral, and even then, she seemed distant. This sudden invitation felt off. "Are you sure?" I asked, unable to hide my surprise. "Of course," she laughed, though something about it sounded forced. "You're my sister. It wouldn't feel right without you. Plus, I have something special planned." Something in her tone made my stomach clench. "I'll be there," I promised, pushing the unease aside. The following Saturday, I arrived at my parents' house, carrying 2 carefully wrapped gifts, a high-end baby monitor and a handmade blanket. Despite everything, this was my niece or nephew. The place was decorated like something out of a Pinterest board, pastel balloons, streamers, a towering diaper cake. Trust Emily to turn a simple baby shower into an extravagant event. I recognized almost everyone. Mom's bridge club friends, our cousins, even some of Emily's old college roommates. "Time for games," Emily announced, standing in the center of the room in a flowy maternity dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked radiant, but there was something predatory about her smile that made me uneasy. Throughout the games, she kept glancing at me, holding my gaze a second too long. I tried to brush it off as paranoia, but deep down, I knew something was coming. Then came the gifts. Emily cooed over each one, gasping dramatically at every tiny onesie. When she got to mine, she ran her fingers over the soft fabric of the blanket before clinking her glass. "Everyone, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for coming," she said, placing a hand on her belly. "But there's something else I need to share." The room quieted. My stomach dropped. "I think it's time everyone knew who the father of my baby is," she continued, her eyes locking onto mine. In that instant, I knew. I knew before she even said it. "The father," she announced, her voice ringing through the silent room, "is Alex Parker." My late husband. The air was sucked out of the room. A chorus of gasps and whispers filled the silence. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. But what hit me hardest wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way my parents didn't look surprised. The world tilted. I could hear the shocked murmurs from the guests, the scrape of a chair against the floor, someone coughing awkwardly. But all I could focus on was my sister standing there, belly round with his child wearing that smug, satisfied smirk. Alex? My Alex? No. My breath came short and fast. The room felt too small, too bright. My fingers dug into the armrest of a nearby chair, trying to ground myself. "Emily," I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're lying." She let out a soft, almost pitying laugh. "Oh, Rachel, I knew you'd react like this." "Like this? What did she expect? Me? To congratulate her? Asked to hold her baby, his baby?" I looked at my parents, my last hope for sanity, but the way they stood on either side of her, their expressions unreadable, told me everything I needed to know. They had known. Mom stepped forward, reaching for my hand, but I jerked away. "Rachel, sweetheart," she said. Softly, "You need to do the right thing here. This baby," she glanced at Emily's stomach with something dangerously close to adoration, "is Alex's only child. His legacy." My stomach lurched. I swallowed hard, forcing down the bile rising in my throat. Emily straightened, flipping her hair over one shoulder. "And as his only heir, my child is entitled to half of everything he left you." There it was, the real reason I was here. This wasn't about a baby shower. It was a setup. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest, like a weight pressing down, suffocating. Alex was dead, gone. And yet, somehow, his name was still being dragged through the dirt. Emily pulled out her phone, shaking her head like she was so disappointed in me. "You want proof? Fine." She turned the screen toward me. My heart stopped. There, in high-definition clarity, were pictures. Alex and Emily, together. One of them in what looked like a hotel room, him holding her close, kissing her forehead. Another at a restaurant I didn't recognize, his hand resting on hers across the table. I felt like I had been doused in ice water. "See?" she said sweetly. "He loved me. He was going to leave you, Rachel. We had a whole future planned." A sharp ringing filled my ears. No, this couldn't be real. I had spent years with this man, slept beside him, shared dreams, built a life. We had tried for a baby together, and all that time he had been with her. "You're lying," I choked out. But even as I said it, the doubt crept in. Because deep down, I remembered the times Alex had been distant. The business trips, the unexplained late nights, the way he had reassured me, over and over, that our fertility struggles weren't my fault, that he loved me. Had that all been a lie? "I'm not lying." Emily's voice was softer now, like she actually felt sorry for me. "And if you don't want this to get ugly, I suggest you start cooperating. We can settle this the easy way, Rachel." Or, she trailed off, letting the threat hang in the air. I barely remembered leaving. One moment, I was in that suffocating room. The next, I was in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I drove on autopilot, not sure where I was going, not caring. My phone buzzed repeatedly, messages lighting up the screen. "Emily, we need to talk about the inheritance." "Mom, Rachel, don't make this difficult. Dad, you need to be reasonable." "We'll discuss this tomorrow." Reasonable. Like they had been when they stood there, silently backing my sister's insanity. Like my parents, who had known for months and still smiled in my face. I blocked all three of them. When I finally got home, the silence hit me like a slap. This was our house, mine and Alex's. The framed wedding photo on the mantel felt like a cruel joke. Had he been with her then? Had he kissed me and her on the same day? I spent the night pacing, unable to sleep, my mind circling the same questions. By the time morning came, exhaustion settled in like a weight. Then, the knock at my door, sharp, insistent. I didn't move. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Rachel, please open the door. Another knock. I hesitated before peeking through the peephole. A woman stood on my porch, late 50s, maybe early 60s, well-dressed. Something about her face felt familiar, but I couldn't place it. I cracked the door open, wary. "Who are you?" She exhaled sharply, like she had been holding her breath. "I know this is sudden, but my name is Linda Parker." She hesitated. "Alex's mother." My stomach dropped. "What?" My voice was barely a whisper. "That's impossible." Alex was an orphan. He told me his parents died when he was a kid. Her expression tightened. He lied. A cold chill ran through me. Linda's gaze softened. "Rachel, the first need to talk to you. About Alex. About everything." My pulse pounded in my ears. I should have slammed the door in her face. Should have told her to leave me alone. But something in her eyes, something desperate, urgent, made me step aside. "Come in." She did, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her together. "Thank you," she murmured, sitting stiffly on the couch. I crossed my arms. "Start talking." Linda reached into her bag and pulled out a thick envelope. My name was scrawled across the front in unfamiliar handwriting. "I didn't know if I should come," she admitted. "I thought maybe it wasn't my place. But when I heard about your sister's claims, I couldn't stay silent." I swallowed hard. "He never told me about you." She gave a humorless laugh. "I'm not surprised. Alex had secrets." "No kidding." She slid the envelope across the table. "I think you should read this before you make any decisions." With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside were hospital records, medical tests, and at the very top, bold and undeniable, complete azoospermia, permanent sterility. I blinked, rereading the words, my brain refusing to process. "He was infertile," Linda said quietly. "He's always been infertile. There's no way he could be the father of your sister's baby." The room swayed. I gripped the envelope like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Emily had lied. All of it, the announcement, the inheritance demand, the smug little smirk. A lie. Rage bubbled up, slow and seething. I looked up at Linda, my voice shaking. "How do we prove it?" The words on the medical report blurred as I stared at them, my brain scrambling to process what this meant. Alex had been infertile, not recently, not due to some sudden illness or accident. Always. Which meant that Emily's baby, not his. I let out a sharp laugh, the kind that didn't hold any humor. I had spent an entire night drowning in betrayal, questioning everything. And for what? For a lie. Linda watched me carefully, her hands clasped in her lap. She hadn't moved, hadn't tried to comfort me. She was just waiting. I cleared my throat, forcing my voice to steady. "How do we prove this?" Her lips pressed together. "A DNA test would be the most solid proof. If I test against the baby, it'll show I'm not related." It made sense. But that meant convincing Emily to allow it, and given her dramatic announcement, I doubted she'd willingly agree. I exhaled slowly, my mind already spinning through options. "She won't do it voluntarily," I muttered. "And my parents? They're already on her side." Linda nodded. "Then we go the legal route." The idea of dragging my own sister to court made my stomach churn, but she had started this war. I had no choice but to finish it. "Okay," I said, my voice stronger now. "Let's fight." The first thing I did was find a lawyer. Richard Martinez came highly recommended, a specialist in inheritance and fraud cases. When I sat down in his office, still clutching Alex's medical records like a shield, he wasted no time. "Your sister's claim is built on deception," he said, flipping through the papers. "If we can prove Alex was biologically incapable of fathering a child, her case falls apart." "She won't agree to a DNA test willingly," I warned. Richard's expression remained neutral. Then we'll let the court order one. The thought sent a surge of satisfaction through me. Emily had been so sure of herself, so smug, parading around like she had won. But she had built her scheme on a foundation of lies, and it was about to crumble. "I'll file the paperwork," Richard continued. "In the meantime, prepare yourself. When she finds out, she won't take it well." He wasn't wrong. 2 days later, my phone exploded with calls. Emily, my parents, even a few relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. I ignored them all, knowing exactly what they wanted to manipulate me into dropping the case. When that didn't work, they showed up. I had barely opened my door when my mother pushed her way inside, my father close behind her. "Rachel, what are you doing?" Mom's voice was shrill, her face tight with anger. I crossed my arms. Defending myself, Mom let out a disbelieving laugh. "Against your own sister? She's the one trying to steal from me," I shot back. "She's lying. And I have proof." Dad's expression darkened. "You don't need to take this to court. Just split the money, and it'll all go away." I scoffed. "You want me to hand over half of Alex's estate to a child that isn't even his?" That made them pause. "Just for a second. You don't know that," Mom said quickly. "Emily wouldn't lie about something like this." I smiled coldly. Wouldn't she? Then, before they could speak, I held up the medical report. Mom snatched it, scanning the words. As her face paled, her hands trembled. This isn't possible," she whispered. Dad took the paper from her, his jaw clenching as he read. He looked up at me, expression unreadable. "Where did you get this, Linda Parker?" The room went silent. "You mean to tell me Alex's mother gave you this?" Dad's voice was oddly calm, but his hands had curled into fists. I nodded. "Turns out she's not dead." Mom swallowed hard. "Emily said Alex told her his parents had died when he was young." I arched a brow. "And yet, you blindly believed everything else she said?" Dad's silence was all the answer I needed. I stepped back, gripping the doorknob. "You should go." Mom looked ready to argue, but Dad took her arm. "Come on." They left without another word. I locked the door behind them, my heart still pounding. The court hearing came fast. Emily sat at the front of the courtroom, her newborn in her arms, my parents flanking her like bodyguards. She had dressed for the occasion: minimal makeup, soft curls, a demure black dress, the very picture of a grieving almost widow. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have fallen for it. Her lawyer tried to paint me as heartless, a bitter widow refusing to care for her husband's child. Emily cried on cue, describing her deep love for Alex, the plans they had made before his tragic death. I stayed silent, my nails digging into my palms. Then Richard stood. "Your Honor, we have compelling evidence that directly contradicts Miss Thompson's claims." He approached the bench, handing over the medical records. "These documents show that Mr. Parker was medically incapable of fathering children." The judge scanned the papers. "Miss Thompson, do you have a response?" Emily's breath hitched. Her fingers clutched at the baby's blanket. "Those are fake," she blurted. "She forged them to steal my baby's inheritance." Richard didn't even blink. "We anticipated that claim, Your Honor. That's why we requested a court-ordered DNA test." Emily froze. "There's no need for that," she said quickly. The judge's gaze was sharp. "I disagree." And just like that, the test was ordered. The results arrived a week later. The judge opened the envelope, the entire courtroom silent as she read. The results conclusively showed that there is no genetic relationship between the minor child and Miss S. Linda Parker. A collective gasp filled the room. Emily paled. The judge turned to her, expression unreadable. "Miss Thompson, would you care to explain why you led the court to believe Mr. Parker was the father of this child?" Emily's grip tightened around the baby. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I was seeing multiple people when Alex was alive. I thought, after he died, no one would question it. He had money. I needed." Her voice broke. The judge's gaze hardened. "You attempted to defraud your own sister and the court. This case is dismissed with prejudice." Just like that, it was over. Emily collapsed into silent sobs. My parents looked stunned. I stood, my heart finally light. As I stepped outside, Linda was waiting. "How do you feel?" she asked softly. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Free. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as I walked out. my heels clicking against the polished floor. My heart pounded, not from fear anymore, but from relief. It was over. Emily had lost. The lies, the deception, the months of manipulation, it all came crashing down around her. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe again. I stepped outside, the crisp air hitting my face like a wake-up call. Linda stood by my car, her arms crossed, watching me carefully. "How do you feel?" she asked. I let out a slow breath, the tension finally releasing from my shoulders. "Free," I admitted. She gave a small, knowing smile. Good. We stood there for a moment, letting everything sink in. The last few weeks had been a whirlwind: grief, betrayal, lawsuits, and now it was done. No more Emily. No more threats. No more parents trying to guilt me into sacrificing my future for a lie. I had won. But as I glanced back toward the courthouse doors, I caught sight of them. Emily sat on the steps, her shoulders slumped, her hands gripping the baby like a lifeline. My parents flanked her, both of them looking lost. For the first time, I saw them not as my enemy, but as people who had made their choice and lost everything because of it. Mom looked up and met my gaze. I expected anger, bitterness, some last desperate plea to fix what had been shattered. Instead, her eyes were full of regret. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. Because some things, they couldn't be fixed. I turned back to Linda. "Let's go." For the first time in months, I went home without the weight of uncertainty crushing me. No more waiting for the next bomb to drop. No more questioning what was real and what was a lie. Just quiet. I stood in the middle of my living room, staring at the framed wedding photo on the mantel. My fingers traced over the glass, over Alex's smiling face, the man I had loved, the man who had lied. I wasn't sure what to feel anymore. I wasn't grieving him the same way I had before. That deep, raw pain had been replaced with something else. A hollowness, a dull ache that didn't quite fade, but didn't consume me either. Maybe this was healing. I exhaled and pulled the picture down, setting it in a box with the rest of his things. Not to erase him, but to put him where he belonged in the past. I was done living in a house full of ghosts. The next few weeks were quiet. Linda and I started meeting for coffee every weekend. At first, it was just to talk about Alex, to make sense of who he really was, to piece together the version of him I had known with the one she had lost years ago. But soon, it became something more. She told me stories about her life, about the family Alex had kept hidden from me. And I told her about mine, the good, the bad, the in-between. It was strange how easy it felt. Like we had both lost something but found a piece of it in each other. "Are you sure you want to sell the downtown apartment?" she asked one afternoon, stirring her coffee. I nodded. Too many memories. And honestly, I never really liked it. Linda hesitated. "You know, I'd love a place in the city. Maybe we could work something out?" I smiled. "Consider it yours." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Rachel." For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had gained something instead of losing it. Emily didn't contact me directly after the trial, but one day, an envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Inside was a letter written in her messy scrawl. "Rachel, I know you probably won't believe me, but I am sorry. I never meant for things to go this far. I was desperate, and I made a mistake. I just wanted security for my son. I know I was wrong, and I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I regret everything. I hope one day we can talk." Emily, the first, stared at the words for a long time. The part of me that had spent my whole life chasing her approval, craving her affection, wanted to believe her. But the rest of me, the part that had been burned too many times, that part knew better. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and dropped it into the trash. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. Mom and Dad never reached out again, not directly at least. But through mutual friends, I heard about them. How they struggled after I cut off the money. How they had put so much faith in Emily's scheme, only to have it all come crashing down. At first, I felt guilty. Then I remembered all the nights I had cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had done something wrong, wondering why I was the one being punished when I had done nothing but love Alex. And just like that, the guilt faded. They had chosen their side. I had chosen mine. One night, I sat on my balcony, a glass of wine in my hand, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. For the first time in months, my mind wasn't consumed by Alex, or Emily, or my parents. For the first time in months, I felt light. I had lost so much, but somehow I had gained something too. A fresh start, a new family in Linda, a life that was finally mine. I wasn't ready to date again, not yet, but I had started living, and that was enough. For now. Days turned into weeks, then weeks into months. For the first time in a long time, my life was mine. No more unexpected phone calls, no more betrayals waiting to unfold. The quiet that had once felt suffocating now felt peaceful. I had routines again. Waking up without a pit in my stomach, going to work without fearing the latest drama, coming home to a house that didn't feel haunted by old memories. Linda and I had become closer. We had our weekly coffee meetups, but sometimes she'd stop by just to chat, just to check in. It was strange, building a relationship with the mother of the man I had once loved, but now barely recognized. One evening, as we sat on my balcony with glasses of wine, she glanced over at me. "You're different," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. I raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" She tilted her head, studying me. "Lighter, like you finally let go of something heavy." I let her words sink in. Maybe she was right. For so long, I had been buried under grief, betrayal, anger. But sitting there, watching the city lights blink in the distance, I realized something. I had let go. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Emily stayed quiet after her letter, but that didn't mean she was gone. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits and pieces. How she had moved to a smaller apartment. How she had started working again. The money she had counted on, the money she tried to steal, was never going to come. A part of me wondered if she had truly learned anything from all of this. If losing the case, losing my parents' blind support, losing the easy way out had changed her. I didn't know. And honestly, I wasn't sure I cared. She had made her choices. I had made mine. Then, one afternoon, an email arrived. I almost ignored it, assuming it was another work notification, but when I saw the sender, my breath caught. Emily. My fingers hovered over the mouse. I could have deleted it. Could have pretended I never saw it. Instead, I clicked. "Rachel, I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because I don't have anyone else to talk to. Maybe because you're the only person who ever really saw me for who I was. Even when I didn't want you to. I messed up. I know that now. I thought if I could just make things work, if I could get what I needed, then everything would be okay. But I hurt you. And I lost. I never thought I'd lose Mom and Dad too. They won't say it, but they blame me. Dad barely looks at me. Mom only calls when she needs something. It's like I don't exist unless I'm useful. It hurts, Rachel. And maybe that's karma. Maybe I deserve it. But I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. I see what they are. And I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. But I needed to say it. Emily, I read it twice, then a third time. Then I closed my laptop and walked away. The old me might have responded, might have clung to that little thread of hope that she had changed, that we could rebuild something. But the old me had spent years chasing after a sister who never cared, parents who never saw me, a marriage built on lies. I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I just didn't care. And that was freeing in a way I hadn't expected. Not long after, Linda and I finalized the apartment sale. "You sure about this?" she asked, holding the keys in her hand. I grinned. "Positive. If I never have to set foot in that place again, I'll be happy." She chuckled, shaking her head. "Well, in that case, I'll take good care of it." We stood there for a moment, the weight of everything we had both lost and gained hanging between us. Then she hugged me. "Thank you, Rachel," she murmured. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Life moved on. I went back to work full-time, pouring myself into new projects. I joined a hiking group, started reading again, planned my first solo vacation. For so long, I had been stuck in a loop of grief, of betrayal, of wondering what I had done to deserve any of it. But standing at the edge of something new, I realized I wasn't asking those questions anymore. I wasn't waiting for closure. I had already given it to myself. A year ago, I never would have believed this would be my life. Back then, I was drowning in grief, trapped in a cycle of betrayal, questioning everything I thought I knew. Now I woke up in a home that felt like mine. I spent my weekends hiking, trying new restaurants, and exploring parts of the city I had never paid attention to before. And the best part? I didn't wake up every morning waiting for the next disaster. I had cut the last frayed ties to my past. My parents had stopped trying to reach me months ago. And Emily, well, after her email, she never followed up. I hadn't responded. Not because I was holding a grudge, but because I had nothing left to say. Maybe she had changed. Maybe she hadn't. But it wasn't my problem anymore. One afternoon, I met Linda for lunch at a small cafe near her new apartment. She looked more relaxed than I had ever seen her, like she had finally let go of her own ghosts. "I have something for you," she said, pulling out a small wrapped box. I frowned. "Linda, we talked about this. You don't have to keep giving me things." She rolled her eyes. "Just open it." I tore off the paper, revealing a simple silver bracelet with a delicate charm. When I turned it over, I saw a small engraving. Strength. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Linda," she smiled, "you gave me a home, Rachel. And more than that, you gave me back a family. The least I can do is remind you of how strong you are." I blinked away the sudden sting in my eyes and fastened the bracelet around my wrist. For so long, I had thought of myself as a victim of Alex's lies, of Emily's betrayal, of my parents' indifference. But sitting there, sipping my coffee, feeling the weight of the bracelet against my skin, I realized something. I had survived it all, and that was something worth celebrating. A few weeks later, I booked my first solo trip. I didn't tell anyone, didn't ask for opinions or validation. I just did it for me. The moment my plane landed, I felt the thrill of stepping into something new, something untouched by the past. I spent my days wandering through cobblestone streets, eating at tiny cafes, getting lost on purpose. I had thought I would feel lonely, traveling alone, but I didn't. For the first time in my life, I felt whole. On my last night of the trip, I sat on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. The stars were impossibly bright, the kind of beauty that made you feel small in the best way. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old photos, pictures of Alex, of my parents, of Emily, and then, with a deep breath, I deleted them. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because I didn't need them anymore. They were part of my story, but they weren't my story. Not anymore. I leaned back, letting the ocean breeze wash over me, and smiled. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I was only looking forward. Story 2. Every year, my family forgets my birthday. I didn't remember their anniversary this time. "Unexpected! How could you?" they shouted. I then disclosed that the invitation had once again come on my birthday. Nobody could recall. Not even my daughter Paisley. However, I knew that when she realized, she would feel awful. As I ran my fingertips over the raised lettering advertising my parents' 50th wedding anniversary party, I gazed at the thick cream envelope with its gold embossing. It's quite appropriate that it arrived on my 48th birthday, when the only sound in the house was my cat purring on the windowsill. My name is Gabriella, and I've spent 3 decades watching my family celebrate everything but me, Mom. I was startled by Paisley's voice as she rushed through the front door. "Oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I just recalled what day it is." She hurried to give me a hug after dropping her bag, her long dark hair tickling my face. I was really preoccupied with finals. "It's okay, sweetheart," I said. "We both knew it wasn't, though. Now you're here." Her gaze landed on the packet in my hands as she withdrew. "Is that an invitation to your grandparents' anniversary?" "Indeed." I made an effort to grin. "The 5 majors. Are they serious, I wonder? Sending it on your birthday." As she read the envelope, Paisley's expression darkened. "They have forgotten your birthday and want you to deliver a speech once more. For what?" "The 30th consecutive year, 28th. Who's counting, though?" I cracked my voice as I attempted to laugh it off. We both jumped when the phone rang. The name of my mother appeared on the screen. "To discuss the anniversary, Prudence is calling," Paisley inquired in a sour tone. I let it ring and nodded. "Do you recall last year?" Paisley sat alongside me while Uncle Trey's wife, Vanessa, tried to convince everyone they should sing Happy Birthday to You during the anniversary toast, and your grandma shut it down since it would detract from the celebration I completed. How could I have forgotten? The phone abruptly stopped ringing and then started up again. This time, it was my sister Marlo, who was most likely already in contact with her mother from her opulent London apartment. What do you know? Paisley took hold of my hand. Let's head out now. Give them time to wait. Trey texted me before I could reply, and my phone buzzed. Mom is attempting to contact you. Tonight is a crucial planning meeting for the anniversary. Don't be challenging. Paisley rolled her eyes when I showed her the message. Don't be challenging. That's rich, coming from the brother who neglected to invite you to his own wedding rehearsal dinner. I clarified that he hadn't forgotten. He believed I wouldn't want to attend because I was busy composing my short stories. It was the third time the phone rang. My father, Roy. In 5 minutes, there will be 3 calls. I'm accustomed. Must be urgent. Anniversary-related business. Ignore them, Paisley said. For once, let's celebrate you. I looked at the invitation once again. The complex request asked me to make the anniversary toast, something I had done for the last 15 years. Every year I stood before our extended family and friends, weaving beautiful stories about my parents' enduring love while swallowing the bitter truth of my own invisibility. Another text, this one from Vanessa, buzzed on the phone. Your mom is becoming agitated. Give her a call back, please. She gets upset over these things, you know. I am aware of her behavior. I whispered more to myself than Paisley. While I get what I want, she gets exactly what she wants. I pointed to the demanding invitation, the forgotten birthday, and the vacant house. Paisley gave my hand a squeeze. You don't have to do this any longer, Mom. Something changed within me. Next, like the turning of a key in a long, corroded lock, I actually looked at my daughter and saw the comprehension that went beyond duty, the strong protectiveness in her eyes. I slowly said, You're right, as a plan began to take shape. Perhaps I don't. Well, what are you contemplating? Running my fingers over my mother's well-written requests, I accepted the offer. It's time for a different kind of story, I think. My phone came back to life. Trey texted again. Meeting starts at 7. Mom shouldn't have to wait. I felt lighter than I had in years as I turned to face Paisley. What about that supper for your birthday? She smiled. Really? Really? Then I looked at my laptop, where my almost completed memoir was waiting. I believe I've finally figured out how to wrap up my novel. The phone rang as we reached for our outerwear. For the last time, I let the voicemail go. The quiet was filled with my mother's clipped tones. Gabriella, dear, we definitely must address the anniversary plans. Do call back immediately. You are aware of the family's importance in this. As we left, Paisley and I exchanged glances. For once, I didn't feel terrible letting the phone go unanswered. After all, they had ignored me for 28 years without any problems. Perhaps it was time for them to experience it. A leather-bound photo album was purposefully left on my desk when I entered my home office the morning after my birthday dinner with Paisley, the passive-aggressive touch that my mother is known for. We were out yesterday night, and she must have dropped it off. They were 49 years of expertly planned anniversary celebrations when I opened it. My fingers traced over the photographs. Mother in her beautiful gowns, father in his fitted suits. Both of them smiled at the camera while holding crystal champagne flutes. It buzzed on my phone. Talk about the devil. Gabriella, why weren't you at the meeting last night? The line was broken by Mother's voice. Mother, I was having a birthday party. I continued to flip through the album in a neutral tone. A pause. You are? Was that yesterday, I wonder? Indeed. The same way it has been for the last 48 years. One more pause. You understand how hectic things can be at this time of year, my love. Let's talk about the anniversary now. I stopped at a specific picture from their 35th celebration and said, I found the photo album. The selection of images is intriguing. Isn't it amazing? I hoped it would motivate your speech. You always manage to capture the spirit of our family's history so well. I looked at the picture. Beside our parents, Trey stood with pride. Marlo stood on their opposite side, posing nicely. I was technically in the photo, just visible in the background, trying to help a waiter pick up a spilled drink. Our heritage. I said it again, quietly. Yes, That is definitely captured in these pictures. The doorbell rang, keeping me from hearing about your anniversary. Mother, there's someone at the door. I must leave. However, we haven't talked about Vanessa was standing there looking uneasy as I hung up and opened the front door. She entered without waiting for an invitation and stated, "Your mother sent me. She's worried you're going to make things difficult." I led her to my office and asked, "Define difficult." Vanessa noticed the book of pictures. "You got it." "Look, Gabriella, the first understand that circumstances aren't always ideal, but your parents value this anniversary much." I opened the album to their 40th celebration. "Vanessa, do you recall this one? When I was ill with pneumonia." Nevertheless, my mother urged that I deliver the speech. She shifted uneasily. "You did a wonderful job with it. Trey had to take me to the ER, and I passed out immediately after. Even still, your speech remained the evening's high point." As if that improved things, she offered. Once more, my phone buzzed. "Marlo." "This time, mother's in a state. What are you playing at? What's humorous, do you?" Disregarding the caption in all these pictures, I remarked to Vanessa, "I don't see anyone celebrating my birthday in any of these festivities. Not once in 48 years. Gabriella, did you know that last year Paisley discovered the calendar for my mother's birthday? Except for myself, every family member's birthday is celebrated." I firmly closed the album. "Not only does it include my daughter's birthday, but it does not include mine." Vanessa stretched for my hand, but I backed away. "Your mom has good intentions. She is simply your mom. She is, really, and I am only her daughter." I took up my laptop and proceeded to my desk. "What have I been working on that you would like to see?" "Your most recent book." Vanessa became alert. "You are writing another memoir," Mother said. I flipped the screen in her direction and opened the document. As she read the title, her eyes grew wide. "A Daughter's Guide to Being Forgotten, The Art of Invisibility." "You can't what, Gabriella? Tell the truth." Her face became white. "This will ruin them. The anniversary will go according to schedule." I told her that this year I simply would not be making the customary speech. "What will you say in its place?" I closed my laptop with a smile. "Nothing. I will not be present." "You must be present. It's customary." Flustered, Vanessa got to her feet. "What are people going to think?" "Most likely they won't notice. I'm generally in the background anyhow, after all." Vanessa grabbed her handbag, going for the door. "I have to inform your mother. Proceed." Silently, I said. In any case, she is unlikely to recall this exchange. After she went, I returned to the picture book after the final photo. I discovered a message my mother had written by hand. "Create something unique for the celebration using these memories, darling. Make us proud." Paisley texted me, and my phone chimed. "Just ran into Aunt Vanessa. She seemed distressed." "Are you all right, Mom?" I returned the type. "Never better. Do you want to assist me in crafting an alternative anniversary speech?" She responded right away. On my way with coffee and resolve, I closed the scrapbook and placed it in my bottom drawer. For years, I'd manufactured beautiful lies about my family's beautiful love story. This year, I would tell a different narrative, the genuine story. Let them see how it feels to be the ones forgotten. The prodigal sister makes a comeback. As Marlo entered my home, her high-end heels clicking on the hardwood floors, her voice echoed throughout the house. I hadn't seen her in 3 years, but her timing was flawless. Just as I was finalizing the final chapter of my memoir, "Don't you knock anymore?" With haste, I called out, saving my manuscript. "We must discuss this small outburst of yours, darling." She came in my office doorway, looking just as she did when she departed for London. I continued typing in a perfectly coiffed, carefully groomed, and utterly critical outburst. "I was informed by Vanessa that you intended to skip the anniversary." She positioned herself on the edge of my desk. "And it looks like you're writing an expose of some kind." "Marlo, it's called a memoir. Like the other ones I've written about other people's families, you know." She took up a framed portrait of Paisley from my desk. "Not ours." I put down my keyboard. "Write that down." She placed the photo back with exaggerated care. "Mom is inconsolable. The entire seating arrangement has had to be rescheduled by her." "What a tragedy. Keep your temper in check, Gabriella. You don't fit in with it." Marlo lowered her voice and leaned forward. "What are you looking for? More focus?" "A specific mention in the toast." We can arrange something. There was an incoming email on my laptop. I read it out loud as I opened it. We are delighted to show our interest in your memoir, The Art of Invisibility, Miss Hicks. Your insightful examination of emotional neglect and family dynamics strikes a deep chord. Marlowe's expression tensed. You've sent it in already. It was 2 weeks ago. I shut down the laptop. Next month is the planned publication date. The anniversary is next month. Is it? I must have forgotten. Marlowe got to her feet, her poise faltering. Do you know what's wrong with you? You're too delicate. It has always been. Do you recall the time you cried? Because I got a car for my 16th birthday and you got a journal? The journal, which was a mother's book club present, arrived 3 months late. How sensitive do you see? She dismissively waved her hand. Being the center of attention is simply not for everyone. Gabriella, you should accept that. The front door opened again and Paisley's voice cried out. I brought lunch, Mom. Marlowe squinted her eyes. Your accomplice shows up. Paisley arrived in the doorway holding takeaway bags. When she saw Marlowe, she froze. You're present. Hi, sweetheart. We were just discussing your mother's current writing attempt. Paisley put down the luggage. Her tone was cool. Her finest work to date, you mean? The one that publications are already talking about. The one that will embarrass our whole family, Marlowe shot back. Only those who deserve it can be humiliated by the truth. Paisley fired back. Be careful, my love. Although loyalty is great, you don't want to make the entire family unhappy. I got to my feet. Don't threaten my daughter. Make a threat. I'm attempting to assist. Marlowe took her phone out. I'm sending my mom an SMS. This is far enough. Proceed. Tell her I'm being tough again, I said. I'm too sensitive. Tell her anything you want. Anyhow, it will be in the book. Over her phone, Marlowe's fingers froze. What is contained within this book? Everything. Once more, I opened my laptop. The neglected birthdays, the ignored successes, the time you all traveled to Paris for Christmas and forgot to book my ticket. The pictures of the family. Inexplicably, I'm not included in the gaslighting or the incessant reminders that I should be thankful for being included. Family concerns are private. Not anymore. I turned the screen toward her. Do you want to hear the 7th chapter? At her 45th anniversary celebration, my mother revealed to my publisher that my first book was only a pastime. It buzzed on Marlowe's phone. Most likely, Mom is requesting updates. She disregarded it. She had a pallid face. This is not possible. Paisley actually added something. She should, and she can, Marlowe said. You're making a mistake, and walked out the door. A terrible family-damaging error. Paisley turned to face me after she had gone. Are you all right? I turned back to my writing after nodding. The epilogue is almost complete. What do you write? As I typed, one read out loud. Making oneself visible can sometimes be the greatest gesture of self-love. Telling your own truth can occasionally be the most difficult. At times, ceasing to speak totally is the only way to be heard. Paisley gripped my shoulder. Excellent. Messages sprang up on my phone. Marlowe thinks you're being irrational, Mother. Don't annoy your mother, Father. Whatever you have planned, Trey, don't. With my phone off, I turned to face Paisley, who was prepared to assist me in writing that dedication page. She grinned to the family that taught me the significance of being seen by teaching me what it is like to be invisible. I replied, perfect, and began typing. Mother came up with the concept for the anniversary meal, a tiny family get-together to resolve the situation. Even though I knew better, I sat at their elegant dinner table and pushed food around my plate as everyone else acted as like nothing was wrong. More wine. Gabriella. Mother smiled tightly while holding the bottle with composure. Your glass has hardly been touched. I'm all right. You seem worn out, my love. Do you get enough sleep? Nevertheless, she filled my glass to overflowing. Writing is exhausting, isn't it? Trey cleared his throat. In relation to writing, how is the latest book progressing? There was silence at the table. Even the sound of cutlery clinking ceased. It's actually finished, I responded, looking him in the eye. Yesterday, the final edits were accepted. Fantastic. Mom got happier. Will we get advanced copies for the anniversary party? We could put them on exhibit. Mother Marlowe interrupted to caution me. I don't think that's appropriate. Take a look. Why not? Father looked up from his dish and spoke for the first time. We always take pride in his books, Gabrielle. I was unable to stop myself. Are they? How recently have you read another one? Quiet. Vanessa went right in. Ever the peacekeeper. Gabriella, the first really enjoyed your last book. The one about the Detroit immigrant family. Thank you. Vanessa, the mother who truly remembers her daughter's birthday. Did you find it interesting? Mother's wine glass froze in midair. Gabriella, really? What must I do, must you? Write about families that work. If that offends you, I apologize. That's enough, Trey snapped. Not your writing career, but the anniversary celebration is what we're here to talk about. Half of the celebrations are funded by my literary work, I reminded him. Or did you also forget that? Let's get started. Marlowe let out a sigh. The martyr repeated the question. After remaining silent up until this point, Paisley slapped her fist on the table. Stop it, everyone. You treat my mother as like she is nothing while you sit here being arrogant. Paisley. Vanessa grabbed for her hand. Nobody gives it any thought. Aunt Vanessa, save it. Paisley got to his feet. I've spent my entire life watching this. You all continue to steal from her. You can count on her to appear, deliver speeches, and make checks. Act out her role. But when was the last time any of you showed up for her? We're her family, Mother stated firmly. Everything we do is for family. I laughed, a shrill, bitter sound that astonished even me. Family. I had another birthday last week. Where were you all? Oh, my love, you are aware of how hectic arranging an anniversary can be. Mother waved her hand dismissively. Marlowe went on. I was in London, Trey said. Had a business meeting. Father simply had a perplexed expression. Was last week really that long ago? You see? I moved my plate out of the way. I'm not giving a speech this year because of this. Mom's expression darkened. Of course you are. It's customary. For example, it's customary to forget my birthday. God damn it, Trey blew up. This is only a birth date. Quit being so dramatic. Is it dramatic? Slowly, I got to my feet. Do you want to see anything dramatic? Examine your email. An hour ago, I emailed early copies of my memoir to everyone. The sound of phones being removed from pockets filled the room. I saw their expressions as they read the summary, the color draining from their cheeks. As Mother read aloud, her hand trembled. Through the experience of one daughter surviving a family that had mastered the skill of forgetting, the skill of invisibility examines the subtle brutality of emotional neglect. This cannot be published, Trey muttered. Already done. Actually, your anniversary is the release date. I grinned. It's funny how well I recalled that date. This will ruin us, Marlowe screamed. Our reputation. Your reputation? Paisley cut him off. What about her heart? What about 30 years of making her feel worthless? Mother's chair scraped the floor as she got to her feet. In your tiny book, I won't be portrayed as a monster. That image was painted by you. Quietly, I answered. I'm only displaying the mirror. Roy? The mother looked at the father. Speak up. Father gave me a long look before turning back to his plate. Please pass the potatoes. I grabbed my handbag and murmured, Unbelievable. We're going, Paisley. Hurry up. Gabriella. After me, Vanessa phoned. We can remedy this, please. At the door, I turned. Vanessa, that's the problem. It never broke. This is precisely how everyone wanted it. Everybody but me. I was walking to the car with Paisley. Through the dining room window, I could hear my mother's voice. Someone will now have to make the anniversary toast, and I guess we'll have to redo the seating arrangement. There are certain things that never change. However, I wouldn't be present to see it this time. And for once, that was all my choice. The morning following the awful family meal, my publisher phoned. Paisley was making coffee in my kitchen, so I put her on speaker so she could hear. The early reviews are amazing, Gabriella, Sarah said. People are calling it gritty, uncompromising, a masterpiece of familial dysfunction. To increase the effect, we are delaying the release date by 2 days. Rather than on the anniversary, 2 days before to it. Sliding a cup in my direction, Paisley requested. That's right, Sarah attested. The time is ideal. 3 big morning shows have already expressed interest in interviewing us. Another call rang on my phone. Marlowe again. I choose to disregard it. How are you doing? Sarah inquired. Family repercussions may be difficult, I began, but a knock on my front door stopped me. Now, Gabriella, open this door. The sound of Mother's voice echoes throughout the house. Sarah, I'll give you a call back. I hung up as Paisley went to answer the door. With her tablet in hand, Mother rushed in. Have these preview reviews caught your attention? Have you seen the comments made by others? Mother, good morning to you as well. You have no right to adopt that tone with me. The tablet was forced into my face by her. Take a look at this. A scathing critique of the dynamics of affluent families. A mother's casual harshness lays exposed. Do you have any idea what this will do to us? Make you see me at last? See you. Bitterly, she laughed. We've only ever tried to make you successful. Who covered your college expenses? Who brought you into contact with publishers? Who? Did anyone forget I was here? Unless they needed something, I interrupted. Who made me feel like I was never good enough? Never significant enough? Never worthy of basic consideration? You're being ridiculous, Paisley. She turned to my daughter. Talk sense into your mother. Paisley folded her arms. She wrote the book with my aid. Mother slumped into my couch, pressing her fingers to her temples. This isn't happening. The anniversary is in 2 weeks. Everyone will be there. The mayor, the governor's wife, all our friends. Ideal readership for a book launch, Paisley whispered. My phone rang once more. Trey. This time, before I could get it on speaker, Mother grabbed it. Gabriella, one interview with all of us is shown in the morning. Without preamble, he said. It's being referred to as a family reckoning story. Not at all. Mom lost her temper. Mother? Trey sounded taken aback. At Gabrielle's, are you? Attempting to stop the total societal collapse of our family? Indeed. I grabbed my phone back. No interviews. Trey, the book is self-explanatory. Then talk to me now, Mother demanded. Tell me what you desire. Cash, a bigger role in the anniversary. Your own party. I want you to comprehend what you did, what you all done, what we did. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Quietly, Paisley murmured, We gave you everything except love, aside from simple benevolence. The phone rang on Mother's end. She glanced at it. Her face was going pale. Your father just got a call from the country club. They want to postpone our anniversary reception until this family matter is resolved. Postpone? It's tradition, Mother. Yet I couldn't stop smiling. Tradition cannot be broken. Are you having fun with this? She accused. Do you wish to harm us? No, Mom. I want you to experience my emotions. Every forgotten birthday, every ignored achievement. You forced me to make speeches every time, praising your love while disregarding mine. I want you to comprehend by openly degrading us. By being honest in public. Once more, her phone rang. The flight of Marlowe is delayed. The London papers want to run, she says. Passages taken from your book. Worldwide reach. Paisley blew a whistle. Impressive, Mom. Mother fell back into the couch. What do you want me to say? That we were bad parents. That we let you down. Tell me you see me, please. Can you actually see me? Now I see you, she muttered. I can see your potential. I did not intend that. She picked up her handbag and got back up. You have, in fact, made your argument. I hope you get whatever closure you seek in this book, but don't expect to be welcomed back after this backward mother. I was never actually there to begin with. She stopped at the door. You know, I always felt your sensitivity was your biggest flaw. It appears to be your most dangerous weapon now. After she went, Paisley hugged me. Are you all right? Sarah texted me and my phone chimed. Good morning. Tomorrow, America wants you. Are you prepared to share your tale with the world? I glanced at the words, then at Paisley. What do you know? I believe I am at last. Excellent. Paisley grinned. For one thing, Graham was correct. Being sensitive is not a sign of weakness. It is your greatest strength. Feeling lighter than I have in years, I picked up my phone to respond to Sarah. It was time for the unseen daughter to finally be seen. And this time, everyone would be watching. There was a deluge of missed calls and texts on the day of the anniversary. I sat in my study watching the drama unfold through my phone screen as Paisley followed social media. Your Good Morning America interview has over 1 million views, she revealed, and the art of invisibility is trending. Once more, my phone buzzed. The caterers have threatened to cancel Marlowe. Mother's having a breakdown. You're where? I picked up the neatly wrapped box from my desk and put my phone down. There was one copy of my memoir in there, beautifully bound in black leather with gold writing. Are you ready? As I ran my fingertips over the cover, Paisley inquired. Nearly. I opened the book to the dedication page and scribbled one more handwritten remark. The doorbell rang. Both of us were aware of the identity. I'll fetch it, Paisley said, but I stopped her. No, permit me. I had never seen Marlowe standing on my doorway with her hair unkempt and mascara smudged. I need you to accompany me immediately. Hi to both of you. This isn't funny, Gabriella. Just now, the governor's wife canceled. The local news is parked outside our parents' house. Father secluded himself in his study. Mother, too? She took a moment to gather her breath. Mom is in tears. She's never cried in front of me. There are two of us. Please. Marlowe's tone faltered. Come fix this, please. What precisely should be fixed? The reality. She took hold of my arm. Do you know what it's like in that house right now? Everyone is coming, asking questions, whispering about your book. Mother can hardly contain herself. Trey's spouse is interfering with the visitors. However, what? The perfect family image is cracking. Did you intend to shatter us like that? I held up the rap book. No, I want us to be awakened. Marlowe gazed intently at the parcel. What is that? My gift for the anniversary? Place it on the gift table, please. Really, you won't be coming? I'll be present. Not while you're expecting me, though. She took the package, hands shaking a little. Mother would never forgive you for this. Maybe not, but I'll finally be able to forgive myself. After she went, Paisley handed me her phone. The wife of Uncle Trey just posted. Love should be easy, but family is complicated. Praying for healing tonight. Her platitudes were always appreciated by Vanessa. I remarked, checking my watch. It's time to prepare. Paisley gave a nod. The celebration has ended due to Operation Crash. We arrived at my parents' place 2 hours later. Through the large windows, I could see the party in full swing while cars lined the street. The nighttime air was filled with the sound of classical music. Take a look. Trying to blend in at the corner, Paisley gestured toward the news vehicle. You're creating a lot of buzz. We entered at the side door. I used to sneak like a teenager. There were many familiar faces in the house, all of them trying to be normal, but obviously bursting with curiosity. Paisley nodded toward the gift table, where my black-wrapped present was on display, and whispered, There's your book. I looked at my phone. Trey has one new message. Mother's about to give the speech you were meant to give. This is your last chance to put this right. I said, perfect timing, as I moved into the great staircase's shadows. Mother took her place at the front of the room, champagne glass in hand. She started out with a little tremble in her voice. Our family has been a symbol of love, devotion, and tradition for 50 years. When they recognized me, the crowd silently parted as I passed through. When Mother noticed me coming toward Gabriella, her speech trailed off. She muttered, clutching her glass tightly, You came. I went to the gift table and grabbed my package. I wouldn't miss it after all. Family does that, doesn't it? Shows up. When I opened the book, the room fell silent. Mother's eyes fixed on the gold lettering, then on my face. What I wrote in the dedication, do you want to know? I asked loud enough for everyone to hear. She shook her head slightly, but I opened the book nevertheless. I read to my mother, who taught me that you don't have to be invisible to exist. It just means you have to shine brighter to be seen. Her hands were shaking when I put the book in them. Happy anniversary, Mama. After all these years, I hope you finally see what I've been trying to show you. The hush in the room was deafening. A camera clicked somewhere. The scene was likely captured by the social photographer. At last, the facade of a beautiful household fell apart. However, I didn't feel invisible at all for the first time in my life as I stood there in front of everyone. I was enlightened. Mother opened the book with trembling hands and skimmed the first page. The room stayed still, observing and anticipating. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Perhaps Father's voice cut through the silence as he stepped forward. We should take this somewhere private. No, I said firmly. We've had enough of secrets, privacy, and acting. Trey took a step in my direction. Gabriella, don't. Don't what? I looked out into the throng. Don't mention that you all missed my college graduation since it fell on a day when Mother's garden party was taking place. Remember when Marlowe told my first publisher that I was simply pretending to be a writer? Marlowe objected. That's not fair. I wanted to keep you from being let down. Defend me? I chuckled. Mother abruptly closed the book after making me feel unworthy. Enough. This isn't your therapy session. It's our anniversary celebration. Actually, Paisley stepped forward. Both are involved. Because guess what, Grandma? Your ideal family portrait. Mom isn't the only one who is suffering. What are you saying? Vanessa asked quietly. Why do you suppose I never take my children to family gatherings? Paisley's voice reverberated across the space. Because I don't want them to grow up believing that love is conditional and that they must behave like seals to gain acceptance in the family. The audience echoed with a murmur. The governor's wife was leaning in to talk to her husband, as I witnessed. The society photographer's camera clicked rapidly. I did everything for you. Mom's voice broke. The finest chances, the greatest schools, all except recognition. With the exception of love, I completed everything. Love. Her voice fell to a ferocious whisper as she took a step closer. You believe this book to be about love? Making us look foolish in front of everyone we know. No, Mom. This book is true, and falsehoods don't always hurt as much as the truth. Father cleared his throat. The preview copy was read by me. They all turned to look at him. Mother's face grew pale. What are you? She muttered. Last night I couldn't sleep. He gave me a glance. Truly took a look at me. Perhaps for the first time in a long time. Prudence, she's right about everything. Don't you dare, Roy. Your 16th birthday. His voice grew louder as he went on. That blue outfit was yours. Waited for us to remember all day. I saw you sitting on the porch until midnight. I did nothing when I saw you. My cheeks began to well up with tears. I was seen by you. I saw you all the time. I simply didn't know how to get in touch with you. Following your mother's example and upholding the image she desired was simpler. The picture I want. Mom's voice lifted. I established this family. I kept us safe, sent us a status update, made us who we are. And what are we, Mother? Marlowe asked abruptly. Because, as far as I can tell, we are just strangers with similar DNA who happen to be quite well dressed. Trey stepped forward. The book was troubled by his face. The Christmas I got engaged is mentioned. How? We revealed it during family supper. Immediately following Gabriella's announcement of her first book deal, you said, "That's nice. Dear, but wait until you hear Trey's news." I used a quote. I recall every phrase. I didn't. He took a deep gulp. I never wanted to overshadow you. None of you meant to, I said quietly. It's worse because of it. It was so natural, so normal to forget I existed. The room had gotten so silent. You could hear the ice melting in abandoned champagne glasses. Mother held the book tightly to her breast like a shield and stood straight. What are you looking for from us? She finally asked. I pointed to the book and said, I want you to read it. Really? Go through it. Attempt to comprehend and perhaps consider the reasons behind your ideal daughter's decision to pursue a career in writing. You did, but why? Vanessa asked. Because authors cannot be disregarded. Their statements deserve attention, to be heard. I gave a sorrowful grin. It was necessary for me to create myself. Mother opened the book again, this time to the final page. Her lips moved silently as she read the last lines. Finally, she read out loud. Her voice wavered. The art of invisibility taught me the most crucial lesson of all. Before anyone realizes you were there in the first place, you may need to vanish entirely. She glanced up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something break in her beautiful mask. Her flawless makeup was smudged when a tear trickled down her cheek. Now I see you, she muttered. I know, I answered gently. I wrote the book for that reason. As the guests clumsily resumed their conversations, the string quartet resumed playing a gentle, melancholic piece that seemed to perfectly capture the moment. I saw my mom settle into a chair, open the book, and start reading. Silence itself may often make the loudest message. As I combed through the pile of mail on my desk, the morning sun shone through my office window. Since the book's publication, the inflow of fan mail, requests for interviews, and invitations to speak had been steady. It buzzed on my phone. Another text from Mother. Are you free for tea this afternoon? Since the anniversary celebration, these invitations had increased in frequency. Every one of them seemed like a tiny step in the right direction, something genuine. I texted back 3 p.m. Excellent. I'm bringing your birthday present and some scones. Recalling how she had arrived at my door the morning after the party, I grinned, eyes red from reading all night. Mom simply gave me a stack of my early sketches that Mom had stashed away in her study without saying anything further. They were all maintained, dated, and valued, proving she'd noticed me all along, even if she hadn't known how to show it. The doorbell rang. Paisley walked in, carrying newspapers. Mom, you're still in the news, good ones or terrible ones. There is controversy on both society pages, but literary critics are calling you bold. She spread the papers across my desk. In addition, Aunt Marlowe's interview was just released. I took up the magazine with Marlowe's face on the cover. The headline said, Family Secrets, a Sister's Response to the Art of Invisibility. Did you read it? I inquired. You ought to. Paisley gestured toward a statement that was highlighted. I had to face my own part in the chaos in our family after reading my sister's memoir. When you're a part of the system that's creating someone's misery, it's simple to ignore it. Trey. My phone buzzed once more. Having supper with Vanessa's family tonight this time. First time in years. Your book let me understand what we've been missing. Father's voice came out as the front door opened. Hi there? Is anyone home? He showed up at the doorway of my office, looking uneasy yet determined. For you, I brought something. He placed a tiny package on my desk. There was a thin silver bracelet within. Silently, he murmured, I got you this for your 16th birthday. Didn't have the guts to deliver it to you. Like everyone else, it was easier to act as though I had forgotten. Why now? Since I'm sick of acting the part. He cleared his throat. Your book. It demonstrated to me what true courage looks like. As I put the bracelet on my wrist, Paisley gripped my hand. Vanessa sent me a text, and my phone lit up. Your memoir was selected for next month's book club. Would you be interested in coming along? Trey desires to awaken. There was another message. Next month, this one from Marlowe's London book tour will be available. Remain with me. We need to catch up on 30 years of talks. Take a look at it. Paisley smiled. It becomes difficult to ignore the unseen woman. Once more, the doorbell rang. Mother arrived early for tea this time, holding a present package and seemed anxious. She remarked, I couldn't wait. As she entered my office, I have something to show you. She produced a calendar that was bound in leather. I'm rewriting history, she declared, revealing dates written in her exact handwriting. Every milestone, every birthday, every moment. I didn't celebrate, even though I should have. I'm filling them in one by one. I know it doesn't fix the past, Mother, she added hastily, but maybe it can help establish a better future. One where we all see one another plainly. Father grabbed up one of the newspapers, reading aloud and revealing her family's shortcomings. Gabriella, the author, makes a mirror so we can all look at our own blind spots. That's right, Paisley responded. Did you know, Grandma, that after reading Mom's book, my friend's mother began family therapy? Mom gave a little smile. At her garden party, the governor's wife told me the same thing. It seems like we initiated a significant movement within our social circle. What about the anniversary reception at the country club? I asked, referring to social circles. Cancelled, Mom said. I made the decision that some traditions aren't worth preserving. She pointed to the date for today as she opened the calendar once more. Instead, I believed we may establish a new custom. Every Wednesday, if you don't mind, we have family tea. I looked across my office at Father, fumbling with his tie at Paisley, beaming with pride at Mother, anxiously clutching her calendar of second chances. My phone was constantly beeping with messages from Vanessa, Trey, and Marlowe, all members of this flawed, dynamic family. I got up and said, I'll get the cups. Paisley helped me with the tea. We made our way to the kitchen. Look at these reader letters, my mother said to my father. Something remarkable was done by our daughter. Our daughter, he said quietly. She did, indeed. I noticed my image in the kitchen window, no longer forgotten, no longer unseen. I was just fully and finally recognized for who I am. And that seemed like the biggest accomplishment of all, more than any book contract or headline.